4 characters, 4-star units only, and 4-star weapons only. Abyss 12, 9 stars. This is the 444 challenge, and well... So, if you watched my previous video covering my Ganyu C0 Duos run, you're already familiar with the whole format. I used to enjoy doing Dark Souls challenge runs like Soul Level 1 and Bow Only runs, so I started doing some challenge runs in the Abyss in Genshin. Now, I have always wanted to do the 444 challenge, but I never really had the balls to do it until after I completed that previous run and realized, oh hey, yeah, maybe I can do this. It took me quite a bit of experimentation to figure out which pairs I was going to use. Obviously, Bennett and Xingqiu was one of them, but I was thinking of something like Razor Rosaria until I started messing around with Sucrose Fischl and realized this had the single target and AoE DPS I needed. Now, as far as I am aware, I am the first person to complete the 444 challenge, which is using 4-star characters only, 4-star weapons only, and only 4 characters for Abyss 12 9-star clear. However, I could definitely be wrong. I just personally wasn't able to find a run like this when I was doing research for my run. So if you are aware of another 444 challenge clear for Abyss 12 9 stars, please let me know in the comments below, because I would love to see their run and look at their strategies and team compositions. I did find a duo's 4-star characters, 4-star weapon only run for this current Abyss. However, they did change their team for the 3rd chamber. However, it's still incredibly impressive to do, and you definitely should check out this run. And they also used Noelle in their teams to do it, which is very impressive. This run definitely deserves more views, link in the description if you want to check it out. The only other thing I want to mention about this run is that I did do it a few days ago, right before the new Abyss Blessing changed over. This means that I was using the old Abyss Blessing of the Renewing Moon. This is important because my teams can only ever maintain around 2 stacks, so they basically just got 13% attack for most of the runs, and that's it. And this is doubly important because the new Blessing of the Cavorting Moon we got is probably the most overpowered one we've ever got in the Abyss. While the health drain does mean you have to manage your HP a little bit better, the shockwaves you get to release every 1 second can deal up to 8,000 to 9,000 AoE damage. Honestly, if I had waited 1 day to finish doing this run, I would have switched to the new Blessing and I would have had a much easier time completing it. 8,000 AoE DPS is nothing to shrug at. Alright, with that said, let's get to the run. Alright, so here I do get a crit rate and crit damage card, really nice to start off with. Now, if you're wondering why I'm standing around, it's because I actually messed up here and thought I was using my R2 Ally Hunter on my Fischl, not my R3 Stringless. It's about a 4% damage increase for me, but I've got the switch. So I'm going to a position behind the Nobushi here and EQ. The reason I EQ so quickly is because I have to make sure I stagger these 2 Nobushi before they start doing their EI draw animation where they're unstaggerable. This keeps them nicely grouped up for AoE damage. As you can see, I'm also trying to focus my single target damage on the Nobushi since they have the highest health. At this point, I'm just trying to make use of the Oz I currently have on field and hit people. Once he runs out, I'm going to position on the back here, land as much splash damage as I can with Fischl ult, and then I'm going to Sucrose ult now that they've all grouped up a bit more together. As you can see, this Nobushi did get his EI off because I wasn't quite fast enough, so he's not in the AoE, which is a big mistake that's going to cost me about 5 or 6 seconds. Now, I see this Nobushi trying to EI slash, so I try to position his landing spot next to the shovelers so I can AoE them. And 58 seconds for the first half, not too bad. My fastest was a 47-second clear, but clear's a clear. Now, as I mentioned in the last video when I was running the same team, the most important thing here is to focus down the Eye of the Storm as fast as possible because he is going to only do 2 attacks before entering his I fly up in the air and you have to glide up to me mode, which wastes a lot of time. And I'm specifically saving my Bennett ult here, so as soon as the Eye of the Storm decides to land, I can one-tap him. For some reason, though, he's taking a long time to land. At this point, I'm kind of just trying to DPS whoever is still near the circle so I can maintain my 2-second E time on my Bennett. Fortunately, both of these little specters are low enough I don't have to burn a Bennett ult on them yet because I want to save that big juicy vaporize damage for the big boy. Which doesn't crit, but shrug. Fortunately, this Geospectors like to move up at certain times, so now they're grouped up, I'm trying to get as much Hydro as I can on all of them, and then vaporize as many of them with a Bennett ult. Now that they're all grouped up, I'm gonna focus on the Spectres for a bit, as long as they stay near my Bennett circle, so that I can try to spread out damage. The big boy's gonna chase me no matter what. I actually make a bit of a mistake here. I really should be going after these other two Spectres and Bennett ulting onto both of them, because the big guy will follow me no matter what, but that'll give me some better circle radius to work with. Fortunately, they both end up kind of floating towards the edge anyway, so I still have a good enough radius to work with. And this time, I learned my lesson from the last run I did, and I'm making sure I have my ults ready for the next chamber as long as time allows it. Which it just barely does. 7 minutes and 2 seconds left over. Alright, so this next one is probably the most difficult part of this entire run, which is trying to fight a Xingqiu without a shield or a healer. But not just that, I also don't have enough energy recharge on my Fischl, I found out, so I have to do a lot of energy funneling to keep her rotations going. This is why I start with Fischl's E instead of a Q here, because it's a little less overall burst damage than starting with Q, but it gives me an extra 12 seconds of time of having Oz up without having to worry about energy. And from this point on, you're going to be seeing me funnel basically every particle I can into Fischl just to try to keep her ult coming up. There is a tiny animation lock at the beginning of Sucrose's E-cast like I hit in, but shrug. Now, if you remember in the last video, I talked about how if you keep the Xingqiu between you and the wall, he'll always use his dash attack back into the wall, which is good positioning to limit his mobility. The reason why I'm not doing that here is because I started having some problems with consistently dodging his double slash attack after he dashes back. I think the overlapping hitboxes kind of messed up my dodge timing. Unlucky that he dashes twice, but this next attack's pretty easy to dodge. You just gotta make sure that you iframe the first one and then dodge twice to the right. I mentioned this in the last video, but the Xingqiu might be my favorite fight in the entirety of Genshin. He has these really long, big wind-ups with fast executions that really reward you for learning how to dodge him. I actually tossed my ult way too early here, so I still have to dodge to iframe his next attack. But still works, shrug. At this point, I'm starting to get really greedy trying to fit in normal attacks, so I kinda screw up royally on dodging. I still got a decent amount of health, so shrug. Now, because this is already a good run, just to be sure and careful, I'm playing as Fischl here to dodge, so if I do get hit, Sucrose doesn't die. And 1 minute 55 seconds, definitely one of my slower runs. I normally end up around the 140 mark, but a clear is a clear. Now, unlike the last video I uploaded, I have both my ults on Bennett and Xingqiu here, so I can just burst down the Cryo System Mage super fast. Unfortunately, I am still super bad at dodging these cages. They just don't make enough sound, so I don't realize they're happening until it's too late.
I'm going in. Let's light it. Witness the power.
At this point, I've made a huge mistake because I have desynced my Xingqiu's E and Q, so I have to funnel energy from Bennett into him to make sure his ult is usable when it comes up. I'm also just doing a really bad job of making good use of the swap tech I talked about in the last video, which I'll go over in more detail in the third chamber where I actually use it more effectively.
Yeah, let's light it up. Power flows through me. No, my sword.
Overall, this is a really poorly played second half for me. I probably could have saved like at least 15 to 20 seconds with better play, and I just barely eke out a exactly 3-minute clear. Whew, that one got scary, but a clear's a clear, shrug. Overall, this is the easiest chamber just because it's just a hard DPS check. Nothing in here is particularly hard to dodge, nothing requires particularly specific positioning or grouping, it's just DPS. And again, I think I'm waiting for the Alley Hunter passive here, even though I don't have it equipped because I'm a Pepega. There's not too much to say about this first half, to be honest. I just gotta dodge and hit things and try to maximize my DPS. One thing you will probably notice is I am trying to switch up who is my primary target of being attacked because they take a little bit more damage than the person next to them. And I just want to keep the damage as even as possible to make sure they both die around the same time. Now, because this fight is a lot faster than the Bouken fight, I don't really have to bother funneling energy into Fischl, she'll be fine. Dashing over here is by far the biggest mistake I make because I'm so low on stamina, I cannot afford to reposition and hit the other rune guard that I should be hitting to spread out damage. 51 seconds, definitely not the fastest time I could have gotten. I definitely lost about 4 or 5 seconds there, but still good enough. I should really be funneling this first Bennett E into Bennett to get his ult up a little bit faster, but shrug. And I should really be normal attacking here because I can get 3 Xingqiu sword waves off. So here is the swap tech I was referring to earlier. I am periodically switching to Xingqiu in between each of my Bennett E's because this allows the Bennett buff to apply to Xingqiu. Xingqiu's ult is a dynamic ability, meaning the damage of each sword wave is determined by his stats at the time the sword wave is created. This means switching to him and catching the Bennett buff on him allows his next 1 to 2 sword waves to have empowered attack. That being said, I'm not doing a swap tech here right now because I know he's going to switch into his defensive mode soon, and I want to make sure Bennett's getting as much energy as possible because he's pretty far away from an ult right now. And I really should not have Xingqiu ulted there.
Let's light it up.
And here's where I royally screw up because I forget that these little snake boys dive underground. Popping Xingqiu's ult early is really screwing me now because now his ult is desynced really heavily with Bennett's, so I cannot actually do any swap tech right now and I cannot catch a lot of the attack buff onto his sword waves. I also don't get a lot of Bennett ult on Bennett's vaporized E's. At this point, that's so close to death, I'm gonna be saving my Bennett ult for the next rotation because I want to make sure I'm maximizing my damage on the actual boss. And oh baby, I love how low the mechanical erase resistances get when he's vulnerable like this. These are big numbers. It is interesting how much a single screw up in your rotation can really mess up your DPSing. Because I have desynced my Xingqiu's ult and my Bennett's ult so heavily here, I am lacking a lot of the DPS I could be getting from effective swap tech usage. Honestly, all of the mistakes I've mentioned in the second half have piled up and have cost me about 15 or so seconds of time. I half considered resetting here just with how close it's getting, but Mumsy didn't raise no bitch.
Teamwork is dreamwork.
1 second left. But yeah, that's the 444 challenge. This was incredibly fun to do. Now that I am actually looking back through this and rewatching it, I do realize I lost about 5 to 15 seconds at least per chamber just from mistakes I made. But hey, clear's a clear. Alright, let's end the video by taking a look at the artifacts, weapons, constellations, and talents of my teams. If I could redo this run, I don't think I'd change anything about the setups I have on my Sucrose, Xingqiu, and Bennett, but I definitely would have switched my Fischl to her ally hunter because it's about a 4% DPS upgrade with the set I have on her. I probably also would ascend her and increase her talents because she's only level 70 right now, but hey, clear's a clear. But yeah, overall this was an incredibly fun run to do. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do now past this because I feel like this is kind of the peak of what I can at least currently achieve in terms of Abyss challenge runs. Now because the new blessing is so broken, I did try to do some testing to see if it'd be possible for me to use Bennett solo on one half to get a clear, but so far it's looking like the DPS numbers aren't quite there. I'm gonna do some testing with some other characters and see if any of them have the DPS to actually achieve a solo on one half clear with 2 on the others, but I'm not really sure if it's gonna happen. A big struggle is that characters with strong enough AoE to clear the first chamber really well struggle to have the single target damage I need for the Bouken. Maybe I'll try doing some 4-man teams but with level 1 weapons, or I'll try some different 4-4-4 team pairings. I don't know, I'll think about it. But either way, this was incredibly fun. I really hope you enjoyed it, as well as hopefully learned something new about characters, comps, or how to clear the Abyss. Either way, thanks so much for watching as always, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye! you.